36 all out, and that's what everyone in India is talking about. How could the Indian team get all out for 36? In the previous episode, it was Sachin Bajaj, myself, and former Australia cricketer Wayne Phillips, who lives in Adelaide. He spoke to us about what went wrong for India and what went right for Australia. Now, with the second test coming up at Melbourne, we at Niche Sports, as always, promise you to get you someone who knows that place in and out. And today, we are delighted to have with us Simon Helmot, a renowned coach from Melbourne. And Simon, as we know, has coached a lot of teams over the globe. He's been at the CPL. He's been here at the IPL as well with the Sunrisers Hyderabad. He's worked in Bangladesh. He's worked in Australia. You name it, he's been there, and he's got a lot of experience. And this man knows a thing or two about Melbourne and the MCG. So Simon, a big warm welcome to you on Niche Sports from all of us.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. And that was an incredible innings to be bowled out for 36. I'm involved with the Melbourne Renegades at the moment, and we unfortunately we won our first game against the Scorchers. In our second match, we lost against the Sydney Sixers. We were bowled out for 60 in just over 10 overs. But fortunately, India got bowled out for a smaller total. All the pressure came off us, and we've been talking about them.
But you know whom you're talking to. Sachin right here is a Sydney Sixers fan.
Oh, no. He is. I did remember that. I did. He was happy with that, but I'm not sure he would have been happy about India getting bowled out.
I love my Melbourne, Mr. Shipper, the great Shippy, hail Shippy.
Yeah, well, Greg Shippard obviously has been my mentor for many years. Remember, he was a Delhi coach in the early days of the IPL. Worked with the Melbourne Stars for the first 4 years. They made the finals every year. Then he moved on, and in his fifth attempt with the Sydney Sixers, they won the championship last year. So he's doing well again, Sachin. You should be very happy, mate.
I hope he gets my friend Henry Lawson back to work with him too.
The dynamic duo. But let's get back onto Test match cricket. Australia 1-0.
Absolutely. Australia 1-0. And before we proceed, just some fun trivia for our viewers. Greg Shippard was Delhi Daredevils coach. And it was also when they picked David Warner even before he played for Australia. So that is a fun trivia for all the audiences watching this show. Coming back to Test cricket, Simon, I'm sure you had a look at the Test match and the way it went on for Australia. As a coach, did they tick all the boxes according to you?
Oh, well, look, obviously the Australian team certainly did to win as well as they did. After the first innings, we thought that India were slightly in front, but it was a very interesting wicket. I did watch your episode last week speaking to Wayne Phillips. We know there can be something in the Adelaide pitch, but usually it's a batting paradise, especially on days 2, 3 and 4. We never got to those days. We never got to day 4 properly. And it was incredible. What this wicket did have, and from what I've heard, it had a slightly higher grass length. And even though there was some dryness at the top, some dry grass at the top, there was still some real growth underneath. And the wicket, as described by the commentators, had some what we call tennis ball bounce. Now, interestingly, when I was coaching in Victoria, that was sometimes what you had with the MCG wicket. So you never know. The pitch at the MCG, I know, can sometimes be a bit slow, but it can sometimes early have that slow steepling bounce that we saw at the Adelaide Oval.
And Simon, that brings me to the MCG. I've had the privilege of being there during the 2015 World Cup. It's a coliseum, a cricket fanatic's dream to be there. And I just love, and I've always been in awe of that venue. Spoke about the MCG wicket. What can we expect this time? I guess the AFL wasn't played over the winter this time.
There's no excuses. And you're talking about the Coliseum. This is a state in Melbourne that has been denied of sport for nearly 8 or 9 months. COVID-19 was very, very tough throughout the year in Melbourne. And so all the AFL football, all the rugby, all the netball, all the basketball, all had to be shifted up to the northern states and other places. So I think the Victorian public will be very thirsty to see some international cricket, let alone international sport. I think it's going to be a very good wicket. I think the wicket's going to have a lot of bounce and carry in the first couple of days, and then it should play out to be a nice wicket. But you still got to have the defence, because the attack of Hazelwood and Stark and Cummins with the spin and bounce of Lyon, I think Australian attack are on top.
Now, let me bring Sachin into the conversation, who is very loyal to Sydney Sixers and the New South Wales, but he's got great memories at Melbourne and he loves the ground as much as I do.
Okay, I always say Melbourne is the number one sporting city in Australia, but the number two cricketing city in Australia. For me, it's SCG1, MCG2. But for sports-wise, I think Melbourne, unbeatable anywhere in the world. I'll call it the world's number one sporting city, the best coffee in the world, and it has some of the finest people I've ever known anywhere. One of my first memories of the MCG was when India came back in a very difficult test match in '81, and we beat Greg Chappell's Australians. I think it was the underarm year, and it was just before those finals. And Sunny Gavaskar was wrongly given out, and he nearly walked off. I remember he edged the ball onto his pads, and Uncle Dennis Lilly appealed, and Rex Whitehead lifted his finger, and Gavaskar walked off. I think he was abused on his way out, and he took Chetan Chauhan with him, and I think it's something he looks back and wasn't very happy he did. But the Indian team manager, Wing Commander Durrani, was at the gate to send Vengsarkar out back with Chauhan, and it ended well because we had half a fit bowling attack. Vishy got some runs in the second innings, and Dilip Doshi bowling with the broken toe, Shivlal Yadav injured, Karsan Ghavri got 2 wickets on, I think it was the third or fourth day. He got Greg Chappell bowled and the ball went under his bat. It kept that low. Ghavri used to bowl medium pace, but that day he was bowling a bit of left arm spin, I think. And Doshi got a wicket, and next day Kapil Dev came on and took those 8 wickets. And the rest is history. And one cannot forget Len Pascoe going for a walk and Dilip Vengsarkar running him out. Yeah. So it was a great test match in the end. We leveled the series and went on to New Zealand from there. Enjoyed the 2015 World Cup final. I think wasn't the best of matches. I think, Helmo, we were together that day. We went to the cafe.
We were. Yes, we did beforehand.
I have not seen for a Trans-Tasman World Cup final. I don't think it's not as noisy as a Liverpool-Everton game, but it had a different charm. It was very classy, great coffee at the ground, friends all over the place, people from all over the world, and no better place than to host a World Cup final than the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Sachin, you remember the noise after that ball that when Mitchell Starc got Brendan McCullum?
I
the
do.
noise was deafening, wasn't it? And
I do.
you guys remember that day. Just back onto Sonny. At which Boxing Day Test match did Sonny Gavaskar make 100? Because as a young lad, I went there.
77.
Which one?
1977. He
I was
made
5 years.
Oh,
yeah, I was 5 years. I was 5 years old. My father took me to the Test match, and all I remembered is I asked my father, "Why is he putting his hands like this after he made the 100?" And my father explained to me that it was just focusing. That Sonny made his 100, he raised his bat, then he put his hands like this as to say, "Focus now. Let's make this a big score."
beautiful. And India won that test match because B.S. Chandrasekhar took 6 wickets in the 4th innings.
Yes.
Quite a big victory and a series to remember because it happened in the Packer backdrop with, Bob Simpson coming out of retirement to lead Australia. And what a series it was. And a lot of memories for India in Melbourne. Virender Sehwag getting 195 on day 1. Simon, were you there when that happened?
No, I wasn't there on that day, but I remember a young Christopher Cant smacking McDermott all around the ground. And we're thinking, who's this guy who comes out and looks to try and score boundaries in the first 5 or 6 overs when you're meant to just get through the first hour? Seen some great clashes at the MCG, but lots of good ones versus India. And I'm sure we're going to see another one because I'm sure the pride of India and the team, they'll be so disappointed in that last innings that they'll want to fight back very, very hard, albeit without their captain and albeit without one of their number 1 seamers.
Gentlemen, this question is for the both of you. How do you see India bouncing back in the second test match considering an injury to one of the main bowlers, a couple of batsmen out of form, the captain, the main batsman, the linchpin of the batting lineup heading back? So from a coach's perspective and from someone who has seen Indian cricket for such a long time.
I'll let you answer, Sachin, first.
I think we've got to try and bat 2 sessions. 2 days. You've got to try and bat 5 to 6 sessions. Occupation of the crease is paramount. if we bat first, we've got to give our bowlers some runs to bowl at. So they've got to go and apply themselves. And I'm sure Ravi Shastri's been working with them also now that they played a test match. They are better prepared for this test match than they were in the past. And I think we've got good bench strength with our bowlers. So, I mean, I'm confident we'll get over our one bad session at the office. And Melbourne has been a good ground for India. And there are a fair amount of Indians in Melbourne. I mean, they go more for the T20s and the ODIs, but there will be a bit of support for our guys out there. And we just got to go, bowl at, when we bowl, we didn't bowl badly at all. We took the lead. It was our batting that's not fired. So I think our bowling is good. And our batsmen have to bat 4 to 5 sessions to make us competitive. And we got to try and take the match into the 5th day, and the rest, once you've got runs on the board, everything builds from there.
Simon?
And
yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I'll just add one more thing. Peter Moores, who used to be England's coach, and he used to come a lot to my academy with the England boys, he told me only 2 things. Cricket's got 2 currencies, runs and wickets. So we've not been short of getting our wickets. We've got to work on our currency, that is runs right now, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so. There's 2 things for me in this. And Sachin, I agree with all of those comments. I think with this particular test match, India will need to bounce back. And their number one man, who no doubt Australia are looking to attack with a leg slip, putting a lot of pressure on him, is Bajaj. Remembering the last series out here, he was the linchpin. He was the one that everyone could bat around. And no doubt the Australian team have done their homework on how best to get his wicket, because knowing him being not there, not being the cornerstone, then the Australian team may think there's some vulnerability, especially with Virat being out of the side. But interesting to see what you guys think. I've been involved with IPL over the last 7 years, and I've seen some wonderful improvements in the fielding across the board. I think the fielding was below par for India last match. And that can be reflective. That can be weariness from the big IPL, a big season, then coming straight over here, quarantining, and then getting into the series. I think that's reflective on how they're going to play. So I think the fielding needs to improve. The bowling is great. They'll get a replacement for Shami. Pujara needs to bat big. People need to bat with him.
And what worked for Pujara, you think, the last time? Because if you actually look back at the Melbourne test especially, he batted something close to 300 odd balls for his 100, and people felt he was slow, but that made the difference in the end.
Oh, absolutely. I think, look, I'm not sure what's going through Bajara's mind at the moment. I haven't been in all the Australian planning meetings, but clearly they have just placed some players or fielders in different spots to unsettle him. And we know that from a captaincy point of view or a team point of view, that can be done to unsettle the player psychologically, or we actually believe we're going to catch him in the slips or in leg slip, etc. So I think the Australian team have paid a lot of attention to that. And you can't hide anywhere anymore these days. We have so much data, so much information that we feed to our players. Whether you love team meetings or whether you love the information or not, players can still get it. You don't have to have a whole team meeting anymore. You and I can sit and chat, and we can watch Vision at any time we like, in the comfort of our own rooms, okay, in our own homes, wherever it might be. So cricket is looked at differently. I think planning is done differently to make sure that, the best players in the opposition, if they come unstuck, that helps the team win. And that's what the Aussies have done with Bajara and the Indians so far.
I'd like to add one point here. Australia's got at the academy and sometimes with the team, I'd reckon one of the best coaches of fast bowling in the modern game, a guy called Troy Kohli. Yes. And I have seen him work over the years with England and Australia when they've toured in India and at the academy. He's a master technician and tactician. He would have done a lot of research on what's going on, and he would have mentally conditioned his bowlers on what to do. And I think what he's done is, after the McGrath Lee, Gillespie era of fast bowlers, you've now got the Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood era of fast bowlers coming through. So they're hunting in packs with 3 spinners and Nathan Lyons. I mean, it's an all New South Wales attack coached by Troy Kohli, but well done. Good on him. I think he's done a fantastic job with the quicks. And I mean, that's what's the monster mentality that's there with the Aussie team right now. A lot of it, JL at one level and Troy at another level, have done a lot of work to get these guys up to speed here.
So, Simon, there was a very interesting anecdote you mentioned of watching Sunil Gavaskar in 1977 and doing this to concentrate. And modern batsmen can do a lot of that today, especially considering what India have been through. They will definitely have to get that vision right this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they will have done a lot of work. I mean, that was an amazing situation. As I read in some of the columns here in Australia, every good ball players were nicking. And often when you're in not so good a form, you miss those balls. They were good enough to hit those balls. Balls are flying everywhere. I think Riddiman Saha was probably the only real loose shot. The rest were just players getting beaten. It was quite extraordinary. I think the Indian team are laden with talent. I was concerned that they may, like I said, it's been a very big 4 or 5 months for Indian cricketers because unlike a Big Bash, if you like, all the Indian players play in the Indian Premier League. Obviously, it was over in Dubai. Then they've had to have quarantines in all different places in different ports, get the training. And so the preparation has probably been less ideal, especially when you're away from your home. Having said that, I'm not making excuses, but what I am saying is that the players are so good that you just have to be, from both sides, you just have to be off a little bit, and that gives an avenue for the opposition. Hopefully we're going to see a more competitive game, and I'm sure we will at the MCG.
Now, Sachin, is there anything you would like to add and maybe also ask Simon?
The one thing, I'll have a question for Simon in a moment. The one thing I'd like the Indian team management to do is Sunil Gavaskar's on tour with them. I'd like the Indian team management to invite him to a session and ask him to have a word with the batters, just do a session with them for about half an hour, 40 minutes. He's there. And no one knows batting against some of the world's best fast bowlers than him. I think it's time to knock on his door and at least get him to, come and have a word with the guys. I think it'll make a massive difference. But that's up to the Indian team management, whether they want to do that or not. I would if I was the Indian team director.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened at some stage, maybe just at the hotel or where they're staying, etc. If that quarantine allows that, I wouldn't be surprised such if it may have happened already.
See, Sunil Gavaskar is the Britannica encyclopedia on batting. Not only has he got the knowledge, he's had the runs and hundreds to bank it. When you've got Britannica encyclopedia, who's an Indian patriot to the core, why won't I rope him in to come and speak to my boys? Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I'd go straight to him and say, "Sir, please help us."
Yeah, understand.
And finally, this question again is for the both of you. India announced their playing 11 a day before the last test match that was at Adelaide. And it's not something that the Indians are known to do. They usually hold their cards very close to their chest. Sachin, as someone who's watched Indian cricket for a long time, what were your thoughts around it? And Simon, being an Australian, do you feel that India sort of just laid their cards all out open and allowed Australia to maybe plan a little better?
I think it was done very routinely. I don't think there was anything behind it or any mind games. Do it a day earlier or keeping your cards close to your chest. But it's just the way it was. I don't think it would have any benefit or given the Aussies anything more to analyze. Knowing the Australian team management, they would have analyzed all 19 players in the squad when the Indian squad is arrived. So I don't think that would have been a factor at all.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Sach. I think teams usually know what the opposition lineup's going to be. There might be a 50-50 call somewhere. And for the Australian team, for instance, they actually didn't quite know what their team was until they had some health checks on some of their players, like the debutant Green. But I don't think that would be any sort of disadvantage to announce the team. In actual fact, I believe that it actually keeps your own players quite relaxed. And I think the Indian team are concentrating on their side, not so concerned about what the opposition actually think, what the team might be. They want their players nice and relaxed, night or two before they play the test. But just what you were talking about before, who are going to be the two replacements? Is it is KL Rahul come in? Who comes in for Shami? What do we think the changes are?
There is word in the media that Mohammed Siraj may replace Mohammed Shami. Although Navdeep Saini is also a part of the side, but Siraj is tipped to play. And there is a lot of clamour also to replace Prithvi Shaw, mainly for his own good. So there may be 3 changes, 2 forced and 1 more. But there is also a lot of talk about more changes, but that could be possibly pressing the panic button.
Yeah, but who comes in for Kohli? Who comes in for Virat?
Sachin, who would you pick?
See, ideally, Rohit Sharma, but his quarantine doesn't finish. So, you could. You've got Gill, you've got Pant, you've got a couple of interesting options there. Pant could play as a batter. Maybe he could open up instead of Prithvi. Who knows? Something different to mix it up. And Australia, I reckon if Warner's fit, he'll come in for head.
Warner, in fact, I think has just been ruled out.
Okay,
yeah, I don't think he's going to play. Remind me, gentlemen, when did KL Rahul make 100 at the SCG? How long ago was that?
It was 2015 in his second Test match. So he made his debut at Melbourne.
Yeah, okay.
Got it in 2015 and struggled last time, unfortunately.
I'd just be trying to go for the batsman who, exactly what you said earlier, Sachin, who can bat a long period of time. Don't put all it on Pujara. Let's have someone else who can carry some of the load and bat for as many balls. Because we know with both teams, every ball is on the money. There's hardly anything to give. So you need to be able to be patient, wait for that over-pitched or slightly wide ball or something with a bit of length you can work. But otherwise, you have to have good defence. And the MCG, especially in the first session, you have to leave very, very well.
Perfect. And finally, if I have to ask you two to pick a winner, who has it up top? I personally feel Australia definitely have got the massive advantage considering what's happened at Adelaide, a massive psychological advantage, and I think they're just going to build on that. But I think Sachin may beg to differ.
No, I think the Australian are favourites, but cricket's a glorious game of uncertainty. I'm not saying India will win, but even if we draw this game, we go into Sydney with something to play for. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, Sachin. I just think it's so difficult to lose the Test match the way the Indian team did, and then to lose the captain and one of your premier fast bowlers. It's going to be a very, very big task. Someone's going to have to stand up and make a lot of runs, and someone's going to have to support the fast bowlers of Bumrah and Yadav. Spin will play a big part, especially if we do get into late day 3, day 4, and day 5 at the MCG. It can spin, as Shane warned us to show us.
Right. Fascinating to have this discussion with the two of you. Simon, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Melbourne, and wishing you the best for the Big Bash League. I hope the Melbourne Renegades do really well. And yes, best wishes to Finchy. Have known him for some time as well. So I hope under his captaincy, you are able to do really well. And Sachin, thank you once again. Before we conclude, Sachin, I know you have got something to say to Simon.
No. Mate, good luck for the Big Bash. Hope you're on the finals against the Sixers.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it too, Sachin. Great to see you. Great to speak to you both. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
God bless, my friend.